On today's question and answer show, I'm giving you 3 tips for launching your podcast. And I'm also giving you some tips for getting on podcast and providing value. Let's get into it. If you would like to be featured on the question and answer show, please send a message to Mark Savant Media on Instagram. I would love to chat with you and answer your question. The first question comes from Maya's World Press LLC. He asks, Mark, do you have any tips for launching my first podcast? Launching your first podcast can be exasperating. There's a lot of mistakes that you can make, but I'm going to give you a few quick tips here. So first of all, you want to make sure that you have a bank of episodes before you launch. This is really important because in the first week, you want to launch 10 episodes, okay? 5 episodes day 1, and then an additional episode Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So you want to launch at least 10 episodes in your first week. This is really important because for each subscriber that you get, it's going to count as 10 downloads, okay? Now, this really helps you to trigger the iTunes algorithm. iTunes is one of the most popular podcasting platforms. Let's say your mom subscribes to your podcast, boom, you just got 10 downloads in the first day or the first week. This is really important because now iTunes is thinking, this podcast is great. This podcast people want to listen to, and this is really key. The second thing you want to do is you really want to drive people to leave a review on iTunes. This is really, really important. Look, your main goal during the first 2 months, the first 60 days, is to get new and noteworthy as quickly as possible on iTunes. If you can get new and noteworthy, this is a huge boost. If you do achieve new and noteworthy, I was able to achieve new and noteworthy on my first show. What you want to do is you want to blow that up. You want everyone to know I'm new and noteworthy. Look, self-promote as much as you possibly can. If you go new and noteworthy, you want to screenshot that. You want to track it. Chartable is a great tool for showing how popular your show is. It shows you actual analytics. So check out Chartable. If you go new and noteworthy, you want to show that to as many people as possible because now what you can do is you have social proof. You have credibility. You've proven that your show is something that people want to listen to. This is hugely valuable in getting new guests for your show. Okay? Now you can send this to people and say, hey, I'm new and noteworthy. I'd love to have you on my show to share your story with all my listeners. Let's schedule a time. Next tip would be don't go crazy with your editing. Editing can take an immense amount of time. You want to do some editing, removing ums and your nose, but you don't want to go crazy. What I would recommend, I spent hours and hours and hours editing. What I would recommend is you edit out at least the first 5 minutes of each episode. So your first 5 minutes are really clear. What you're looking for is you're looking for someone to download your episode, start listening, and within about the first 30 seconds, the first couple minutes, they're going to know, okay, this is something I want to listen to. They put it in their pocket, or they put it down in their car seat, and you're gold, okay? So that's another great tip for you. Don't go crazy with the editing. Listen, there's a ton of tips. There's a ton of things that you can do to make sure your launch is successful, but these are definitely the top ones. They're going to really help you to stand out and boost your message. If you're getting any value from this video, please take one moment, go ahead and like the video, and subscribe to the show. I'm going to be dropping tons of branding and podcasting tips on a regular basis, so subscribe below. My next question comes from Coconut Creek Therapy, and they ask, Mark, do you have any tips for getting on a podcast and making sure that it's a good fit for your business? Great question. With millions and millions and millions of people listening to podcasts, this is definitely a place where you can reach new customers. This particular client doesn't have enough time to start their own podcast, but I would seriously reconsider that. This is a really important way to build the brand of your business. But if you don't necessarily want to go into podcasting, being a guest on other people's podcasts is huge. It's a huge way that you can reach a new audience. So there's a few things you want to look for. First of all, you want to look for a podcast that's a good fit. You want to make sure that when you get on that podcast, you're not twiddling your thumbs. You're actually providing value. So how can you provide value to an audience? Well, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But probably the most easy way is to go to a platform like Apple iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher and just type in your niche podcast. For example, if you're in the massage therapy field, type in massage therapy podcast and just go kind of down and look to see which ones are popular. You could also go to Chartable, which I talked about before, and Chartable will give you a list of podcasts and will tell you how they rank in particular regions. So, for example, if you're really trying to hit on the Swedish region, for example, you can see which podcasts are really popular in Sweden, and then you could reach out to them and ask to be on their show. It's really important here that your providing value to people. Now, if you are in the massage therapy field, you don't really want to get on a digital media podcast. You want to get on a massage therapy podcast, somewhere you can provide value to that audience so people are interested. They click the link, they visit you to learn more. If you're going to provide value to the fans of the show, you're much more appealing to become a guest on that show. Start out by reaching out to the podcast owner on Twitter or on Instagram. I love Instagram for reaching out to people, or just finding that person's website, sending a contact, and just saying, hey, I'm in this field. I'm an expert in area X. I'd love to provide value to your audience. How can I come on your show? And you'd be really shocked at how many podcasters want to have you as a guest. One of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest time sinks that podcasters have is searching for guests. So if you can come up front saying, this is the value I provide, you have a much better chance of becoming a guest on their show. Once you get on the show, it's super important that you're very clear. Within the first 5 minutes, you want to be very clear on what your message is, what your brand does, and the value. Look, when you get on the show, you want to give away your biggest secrets as soon as possible, okay? Give it all away, all right? Don't be like, okay, these are my industry secrets. I don't want to save them. No, forget that. Give away your biggest tips. Provide as much value as possible up front, because what's going to happen is people will be like, wow, this person knows what they're talking about. This person just changed my life within 3 minutes. I need more. I need to listen to A, this whole episode, and B, I want to make sure that I go follow this person. I'm going to find them on Instagram. I'm going to go to this person's website. I want to sign up for their newsletter. It's really important that you're giving away your best tips up front, because now you've just found a fan for life. And my final tip when you're guesting on someone else's podcast is to make sure that you're plugging your business early and often. A lot of people don't listen to a podcast the whole way through. So if your plan is, okay, at the very end of the episode, then I'm going to give my website, my newsletter, and my shameless plugs. Don't wait to the end, because a lot of people aren't going to make it. You want to front load it. And don't just advertise on the podcast. But if someone says, tell me about your business, say, well, when I first started www.coconutcreektherapy.com, I wanted to help change people's lives. So be very thoughtful, and early and often start plugging yourself so people can know where to find you. You also want to make sure, this is also very, very important, that when that person launches the episode, that they have links in their descriptions. Share them. You want to provide as much value to that podcast as possible. Your goal there is not only to plug yourself, but make sure that podcast is providing massive value to the audience. I hope you enjoyed today's question and answer. Please go ahead and follow and DM me on Instagram for a chance to be featured. I would love to hear your questions, and make sure that you subscribe to the show. I'm going to be bringing you tons of great tips to stand out on the internet. Have a great one. Peace.